You've no doubt seen the footage. The streets of Liverpool overflowing with fans, singing, cheering, and celebrating their team's second Premier League triumph, 20th league title overall. An open-top bus carrying the trophy slowly winds its way through the city centre, surrounded by gleeful fans. And then, in an instant, everything changes. A car ploughs into the crowd. Over 130 people are hurt, including children. What should have been a day of joy suddenly turned into one of chaos, panic, and heartbreak. This is True Crime Catch Up. I'm Stuart Blues from British Murders. With me is Adam Lloyd from UK True Crime.
Hello.
And every week we'll be diving into what's happening in the world of true crime, from the biggest headlines to the strangest stories you might have missed. Make sure you follow the show wherever you're listening or watching. Hit subscribe on YouTube, and if you enjoy what we're doing, please leave us a quick rating or review. It really helps people find the show, and it's a zero-cost way of supporting it. With that, Adam, do you want to take us away for this one?
Yeah, I will do. Thanks, Stuart. Look, I think we can agree it was one of the most shocking events of the summer, wasn't it? It was about 6 p.m, 26th of May, as crowds were celebrating on the streets of Liverpool following the victory parade, when a man we now know was Paul Doyle drove his car, a Ford Galaxy, into the crowds for a distance of about 50 metres. Although there were many injured, either stuck or they were trapped under the car, it could easily have been a lot worse, couldn't it? And I remember watching the rolling news at the time, and there was all the speculation was it was a terrorist attack. And at the time, and I tended to agree, many felt it was the only explanation for what happened. But it turned out he was a local man, a father of three, 53-year-old Paul Doyle. He was in court last week when it was revealed that Doyle was actually in the city to collect some friends from the parade, but annoyed by the crowds, he drove through the barriers and into the supporters. After denying the charges since his arrest and on day one of the trial, Doyle changed his plea on day 2 to guilty, and he admitted numerous charges, including 17 charges of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm. So, what do you make of it, Stuart? What do you think of what happened that day?
I remember hearing about this, actually. And it's one of those stories where not just myself, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners either perhaps even attended or knew someone who attended. Liverpool, massive football club. Like I say, they've won their 20th top division title, equaling their arch rivals, Man United. This is momentous because they did win a league. I think it was in maybe 2017-ish. I might be getting the year wrong. They won. That was the first Premier League they'd ever won. And they always had this stick from Man United. You'll never get to 20. They did. Therefore, there were hundreds and hundreds of people at this parade. My mate was actually there, believe it or not. He wasn't injured, thankfully. He actually said that they didn't know what had happened or see anything, because think of how long this parade route would have been. But he was fine. He actually became a dad over the weekend. I want to give him a quick shout out, Jordan. Congratulations. But it sounds like Doyle just kind of lost it with the people around him, and I'm not trying to justify what he did. It's awful, but would he have felt threatened, do you think, in that situation? What could have prompted him to do that?
I think so. I think for a lot of people, isn't it, hearing all that noise, seeing all those crowds, if you're in a car, let's say you've got some issues, or you're having a really bad day, potentially, I mean, it's hard to know for sure, isn't it, how someone can react like that. But I suppose the point I want to talk about, first of all, and it's a relatively controversial point as well, isn't it? The tensions in the UK, we can't deny it, about immigration arising. There's no middle ground, as we've discussed before. You're either on this side or this side. But what it meant is that there were questions almost in minutes of it happening. There are commentators on the TV, and some MPs and other commentators were saying, should they reveal the ethnicity of the suspect to either confirm or maybe deny it was a terrorist attack? Because remember at Southport, that terrible, terrible attack in Southport, when they didn't release details of the person responsible for a long time, and it's argued that that maybe led to the riots. Really, I suppose my point on this is I can see both sides, but it strikes me, Stuart, that whatever the police do, they can't get it right.
No, they can't. And I've come across a few stories over the past month or so, and that seems to be a prerequisite now with descriptors of perpetrators. It used to be, for example, a 53-year-old man was arrested or whatever. And that was about as far as it went. But now they are throwing in the either the physical description, i.e. a white guy in this case, or the nationality there. And I think a lot of that has come on the back of the Southport thing because people were outraged based on who did that atrocity. So we're seeing it more and more. Whether you agree with that, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because in this situation, if they would have said, a 53-year-old white guy was responsible, I mean, does that dampen things versus if it was someone from a different country that wasn't Britain? I get it kind of, but I also struggle to wrap my head around it at the same time.
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because a lot of people would argue that the errors as they see it that the government are making with illegal immigrants, and then I think it was in West Midlands. I think recently, well, a couple of months ago, I think one man was responsible for some very serious crimes, and it wasn't revealed until the day of the court case that this man was actually an illegal immigrant. And it just causes tensions, doesn't it? So I think the police are probably right. I think they probably should say the ethnicity now. I think so, just to at least give people, I suppose really back for me, it's about giving people as much information as possible. And so people don't think that things are being covered up. And I suppose it comes back to something we've discussed a lot in the past here. With social media now and videos in modern cases or any incident nowadays, there's always someone covering it, isn't there? On their phone, and it's revealed to us on, like you mentioned, the Charlie Kirk, the tragic killing of Charlie Kirk a few months ago. We'd all seen the actual moment of his murder in minutes of it happening, hadn't we?
Yeah, it's incredible, and it was the same with this. The fact that within, whether it's minutes or hours, people, for whatever reason, were uploading it to social media sites, whether it's TikTok or any of the Meta family. And you can understand the potential concerns about it being a terror attack because there have been some on Christmas markets in recent years, not just in this country, but in Europe as well. People, driving big trucks into crowds of people. So you can understand that. I think when the footage came out of this incident, it was quite clear that, I say it's quite clear, it's still open to interpretation, but that it was someone who had been caught up in the parade. And it looked as if they were the only person in Liverpool that didn't know this was happening on this specific day. We now know that's not the case. But the fact that we can see that as the public concerns me so readily, because if I can see it, what's to say that a teenager or a child can't see it? Do you know what I mean?
Everything about it is difficult. And one thing that interests me as well is the police are always asking, aren't they, for anyone with footage to send it to them. They're always asking
to them,
for this information.
not
to
to
them.
Meta. Yes.
Absolutely. But tell me this, Stuart. So I think he had some story, first of all, that he was being pursued. I can't remember the details, but to then change his plea to guilty on day one. How do you feel about that?
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because by that point, so I think he initially on day one he said not guilty, and it was day two that he said guilty. So he's gone through the first day, and by that point the jury's been sworn in. A lot of work in the background, getting legal documents together, getting your defense, your prosecution together. Everything's been brought together. The families of all these people affected are there, possibly including some of the victims themselves. What a waste of time. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Surely he's had legal counsel to suggest what could happen if he pleaded guilty versus not guilty. Sometimes you get a more lenient sentence. That's what we hear if you admit what you've done. But it's not as if he's forced him through the whole trial to hear everything and then pleaded guilty. That's an even further breed of strangeness. But yeah, can you recall any other cases where someone's done that on the second day? I get that people do it before the trial starts. That makes sense. But on day two? That's pretty unprecedented.
Yeah. And also, let's face it, just what we've seen in the video evidence. I mean, the guy was guilty, right? How can you argue you're not guilty of doing it when it's on like 4,000 bits of video?
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? And then you start talking about manipulated footage. I'm not suggesting he was in this case, but we've seen how much footage gets doctored by people as high up as, say, the BBC. The recent scandal there. It's going to come a point in the future. This is a topic we didn't have it written down to talk about, so we won't spend too much time on it. But in the future, there's going to be a point where video evidence isn't admissible.
Well, with the improvements in AI, yeah, I mean, what's the company now? I can't remember what they're called. The
OpenAI, I think it's ChatGPT's OpenAI. I think
no,
is the
there's somebody
company.
else. I think it's called Sonar or something. They've produced
Oh,
such good.
oh, Sora is what you mean. Yes,
Have you seen
yes,
it?
yes.
The AI
Yeah.
quality now is so hard to differentiate, isn't it?
It's really, I mean, this is the people that, I think we spoke about this on the roundup a few months back. People that bringing deceased famous people to life and say putting them in a skate park or like in the X Games and stuff. It's really strange, and the amount of footage out there for famous people, that does concern me. But one thing I thought we should mention, and this is something that a lot of people have reached out to us about, people on Instagram specifically messaged. I want to give a quick shout out to Sam Holdsworth Hand, the cleaning mama. Don't know your actual name. I'm guessing that's your cleaning business. Thanks for reaching out about this whole David Lammy proposition regarding juries, because the recent news is Justice Secretary David Lammy is proposing to massively restrict the ancient right to a jury trial by only guaranteeing that juries will be there for defendants who are facing rape, murder, manslaughter, or other cases passing a public interest test. So my argument is, if Doyle hadn't pleaded guilty and David Lammy had his way, perhaps there wouldn't have been a trial for Doyle. Now, the problem with that is there's 134 victims there, aging from, I think, 6 months old to about 78. Is that justice to have a sentence perhaps handed down for someone by one person, the judge, when there's 130 families involved in this?
I think it's an absolute nonsense. All throughout our history, the state can't send you to prison. The only people that can deprive you of your freedom are your peers, i.e. the jury.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very, very dangerous road to go down. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm unsure. Now, we did a poll on our Facebook page. Feel free to join it and get involved in this kind of stuff. 48% of our group members in there said they would support the removal of juries. Now, the argument is that it would free up the amount of time, it would quicken, should I say, the amount of time that people go through the legal process, and therefore more people would get processed and get sent to prison quicker. You could argue that prisons are pretty full right now. Would that be a positive thing? So 48% said they would support removal, 13% said they wouldn't, and 37% on the fence, that's where I am, I couldn't decide, said they weren't sure. So I think the jury system, you could argue for it and against it, because there's some jury decisions I'm sure you've seen doing your podcast, I have, and you think, how on earth have they come to that decision? 12 people. Yeah. And it could be something as simple as 11-1. Even majority verdicts sometimes confuse me, whether it's 10-2, 11-1. I know there's 15 jurors up in Scotland where you are, but down here it's 12. And yeah, it's still subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, but I prefer that. If it was me or somebody in my family facing a trial, I'd much rather it was a jury than one independent. Well, independent, what does that mean anymore? One judge making that decision. So I've given the example before about the magistrate's court. So a friend of mine, his 15-year-old son got into the wrong crowd, and he got into the drugs, the county lines side of things. And it's easy to happen, right? So he ended up going to court, and he faced magistrate's court, and all the probation reports said this boy, because he's a boy, should be dealt with in the community. But the lead magistrate, whatever on that day, decided no, this guy should go to a youth detention centre for 9 months. Just ignored the advice coming from the probation. I thought it was outrageous. And what really hit me that day is this judge, and I tried to find out afterwards the history of that magistrate. Had they done this in other instances? And it was like a wall of silence. You couldn't find out. And this is my concern with a judge. How independent are some of them now? It's not like the US, is it, where they're very political. But how independent the judge is? Who knows? But I just think it's a very dangerous road for us to go down.
But do you think the jury thing, let's say we have a jury, is that strength in numbers, more opinions, or is it the fact that they are our peers, whereas some might argue that a judge is superior rather than a peer Is that which one's your concern? Is it the strength in numbers thing, or is it the class thing?
I hate that anyone's my superior. No one is my superior, shit. And no one is anyone's superior. You are? Yeah. I hate the fact that a judge that lives in a completely different world from me, you, and our listeners is going to be making a decision on it's about our liberty. To me, our liberty should not be taken away by one person. But look, I want to come back to something really quickly, because we were speaking about video earlier and we spoke about the BBC stuff. And there's other instances recently, though, even though there's stuff caught on video, how it's released into the public has made a big difference. I mean, do you remember that shocking video footage from Manchester Airport earlier in the year?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember, first of all, the bit that was released showed a police officer kicking a man in the head, and everyone was saying, this is appalling, this police officer should be sacked, and all the rest of it. And then finally, the whole lot was shown. And I think we can argue that public opinion changed considerably, didn't it?
And this is the point of context. We've spoke on a previous episode about when my dad was on a jury and he requested to watch the full video, because watching the full video told a completely different story to what was being shown. It's so concerning as well how people believe everything they're seeing. There's a Facebook page called The Lamented, and this is a satirical news account, thousands of followers, but it posts satirical news stories as if they're real. The amount of people in comments that think it's a legitimate news source and don't get that it's satire is so baffling, because the stories on there are outrageous and people are going, I knew this would happen. And it's sort of inciting some kind of inner rage in people when it's just meant to be a bit of fun. But a story that caught my eye about the whole video footage thing through the week was on the eve of the Fishmongers Hall attack anniversary. So, I mean, I know the Liverpool attack wasn't treated as a terrorist one, although they did think that at the start for reasons we've already discussed. But there's been a recent survey done about survivors of terror attacks, and it shows that more than 2/3 of them, 67%, have seen social media content about the attack that they were involved in. Of those, 97%, so pretty much all of them, found it harmful or troubling. It's hard to say because we've not been in that situation, but do you think that legislation needs to be tighter around what we can see online? Is it the companies, or is it the people who post it on there? You might remember I spoke about the machete attack close to where I live in Leeds a few weeks ago, and I've since seen footage of someone in a car on the road filming that. Now you think, we're in a day and age now where people, I don't know this for sure, but let's say this is what happened, where people would rather video something, post it online, rather than phone the police, it seems. Don't you think that's just everything that's wrong in society right now?
On the wider point, I just think the cat's out of the bag. I just think, how are we going to clamp down on this? The difference nowadays, everyone has got a fantastic phone with them, capable of taking top quality video and pictures. I just don't think we can stop it. I know we keep talking about, should it be the big social media companies that clamp down? I think if anything, it should be the people responsible for posting it. I think they're the people we should go for. I don't think we can expect the big companies to censor everything, because where do you start? Where do you finish? It's too big now, isn't it? Isn't it just too out of control?
I think so. I mean, do you think we should then be considering having them increase the minimum age requirement? Maybe you have to send in identification to confirm you are so old, because I think Instagram, you could be 13 on there. The amount of predators on Instagram in particular is frightening. I spoke on my Facebook group about something called sharenting. Have you heard of this term?
No.
So this is a term I'd just heard the other day, and it's people that post pictures about their child, and it's open to the world. It's not just friends and family.
Yeah.
And it's a really good advertisement from, I think it's a board in Ireland. And it's a couple with their child, and they're walking through a shopping centre, and coming down the escalator is a random guy, and he's hi, Susie, how are you getting on at football? And they're like, do you know him? And she's like, no. So they keep seeing these random people who know everything about their life, how the dad sometimes forgets to pick her up, everything like that. And it's just saying, be careful what you share online. But everything's on there. But should we increase the age limit?
Again, I don't think that works. They did it recently, didn't they, for adult content? Now,
Or the old passport thing.
yeah, but
Sent yours off rapid, didn't you?
But I reckon, call me some sort of tech genius, Stuart, as you know I am.
Oh, you got through it, did you? Good lad.
But I reckon if I was under 16, I reckon I could still access adult content within about 20 seconds, don't you, on my phone?
Probably. I mean, I heard the other day that they reckon they're going to try and ban VPNs now.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Technology always wins. It's undefeated.
It does.
Back in the days, faster horses was the answer, wasn't it? When the car came along.
That's it. Speaking of cars, shall we segue onto road rage? That's one you wanted to bring forward.
Yeah, how'd you spell segue again?
Well, in the nose, Adam put SEGWAY, which is an electric transportation vehicle popular in sort of the 2010s, maybe. So I had to correct him that it's SEGUE, Segway. On you go, son.
So think about Paul Doyle. Is it like road rage? I mean, it kind of is. I mean, what are I think you've looked this up, Stuart. What are some of the causes, the official causes of road rage?
It's all psychological, really. But you've got stress factors in there. Combine that with the comfort and the faux security of being inside, let's say it's a locked vehicle. You've got environmental factors. So let's say you've got congestion, you've got bad roadworks all the time, weather, you might just be having a bad day. Some people drive under the influence of both alcohol and drugs. Please don't do either of those. Some people are on the phone. They don't want to admit that, so they blame someone else for it. I liken being in a car and road rage. I'm guilty of it myself, road rage. I am. I'll admit that.
Are you?
I am, yeah. I'm quite bad, yeah.
How does that manifest itself with you?
Screaming obscenities
Do you?
at the top of my voice, yeah. Oh God, you know, like giving them the flying V's, but just underneath so they can't see it. One of those. I liken it to being a keyboard warrior, road rage. Yeah, because people comment stuff and there's no repercussions because they're anonymous behind a keyboard. It almost feels like that in a car.
Does it though? How many? I mean, in the past, so I've not been the victim of road rage. I have seen people get out of their car and go round and start smashing on cars. That must be terrifying, right? If that happened to you.
Yeah, I say that's extreme road rage. I think road rage can be as simple as, because when I say I'm bad at road rage, I don't mean that I, beep at people all the time, get out my car and swear out the window. That's not what I'm saying. I just openly, verbally express my frustrations if something happens to myself, and that's it. I move on. I class that as road rage, and that is what I do personally.
So basically what you're telling the listeners here is that you struggle to control your emotions?
In a car.
Not in other parts of your life?
No, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Pretty chill. I just think that the problem is, this is what I wanted to ask you actually, is with driving. I mean, we could talk about penalties for road rage, but do you think that we should be having to retake our test maybe every decade, every couple of decades? Because once you pass, that's it. Forever. The rules can change. The road signs can change. What do you call the book? What do you call the driver's book? Highway code.
Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it? I can't remember the name.
That says everything about how good we are. The highway code's constantly changing, yet you only have to take your test once. I think I passed 2008. So what's that, 17 years ago, nearly 18 years ago now? A lot's changed. The test has changed, what you do on the test. I'm sure there's lots of things that have changed. I've not read a highway code since before I passed. Have you?
I'm a terrible driver. I'm so bad that reversing, I have to get out. My wife has to reverse into spots sometimes. I'm that bad.
I don't know about you, listener, but I can believe it.
But what worries me more, I've got a neighbour a few doors away. He must be late 80s, 90s. Yeah, he can't see really. He can't walk very well. And yet I see him get in his car. Now that's got to be terrifying, hasn't it?
Yeah, you do see that quite often.
Hmm.
But what again? Unless you bring rules in, it seems the only answer would be not proactive, would be reactive rather than proactive. After an accident, let's say, then you might say, okay, maybe it's time we should think about taking your license off you, rather than, sorry, you've not passed your test. Because think how many lives that would affect if you failed your test, you had a bad day, you couldn't get to work anymore. There's reasons why they don't do it.
Yeah, I'd like having a 10-year test or reassessment. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I think at least a theory test would make
Hmm.
sense, wouldn't it?
What about the sentences for these people that do engage in road rage? Not the pseudo road rage like you do, Stuart, under the seat so no one can see you. I mean, I think of the road rage. I mean, I suppose the one case that really springs out to me, I'm sure many of our listeners remember this, which was Kenneth Noy, the armed robber. It was
Mhm.
May 1996. He was involved in a road rage incident with 21-year-old Stephen Cameron. It was on the slip road of the M25 near Swanley in Kent. And he got in a fight with Stephen Cameron, and he died there on the slip road of the M25. And then his girlfriend at the time, who was with him in the car, went into police protection. And Noy went across to Spain, and he was there for a number of years before he was extradited and brought back. But that's a high-profile case of road rage. If you look through any local Facebook group or local paper, well, I say local paper online, if you can get through the annoying adverts, the surveys and the videos, all
Cookies.
that, it's so annoying, isn't it? If you get through there, you'll see road rage every part of the world every week. So it's actually really common, isn't it? I mean, do we sentence them harshly? I don't know.
It's so subjective. Like just earlier, I've said I class road rage as something so minor that you perhaps wouldn't. So how can you even talk about what the sentencing guidelines should be when it's such a wide scale of what defines road rage?
And
Yeah.
then you'd have one judge if Mr. Lammy gets his way,
Yes,
who's making
exactly.
those decisions. But also then back to Paul Doyle. Is that a road rage incident?
Technically, I guess so. He's on the road, he's angry, he's committed a crime in a car.
And he knows it's going to hurt people, doesn't he? If you accelerate into a crowd of people, you're not hoping they will get out of the way, are you?
No, but again, then you start talking about in the moment, was his responsibility diminished? Don't know. There's
Hmm.
so many factors, which is why having one judge come up with a sentence just lacks sense, because there's no one to play devil's advocate there. I'm sure it doesn't happen from a professional standpoint, but let's say the judge woke up one day, they find out the house is getting taken off them, the partner's leaving them, you know, the favorite cup of coffee spilt on the floor as they were heading into work, they had a road rage incident. Are they going to go in and give you the same sentence as if they had a perfect morning?
No, I think it's real life. I think we assume that people like judges are going to be independent. Absolutely not. I remember when my sister was diagnosed with cancer about 12 years ago, 10 years ago. So as you know, I work in HR in my real job, and I had a series of interviews that day. And I remember phoning my mum at the time and said, Mum, these poor people coming for interviews today, I don't care how well they perform, none of them are going to get the job. And they weren't, because I was in such a terrible mood. I just wasn't in the mood for it. And it must be the same with judges and anyone, all our listeners here, they must know that when they're having a particularly bad day, they'll make judgments that are very different. It's just
They're
human
human.
nature, isn't it?
They are human, and you can't go back retrospectively the following week and go, actually, I was a bit harsh there, without going through the whole appeal process, which has to
Yeah.
be started by the defendant. So yeah, it's a tough one, and
But we do that in our jobs, don't we? I know that if I've had a bad day and maybe I've been a bit off, the next day I'll say to someone, look, about yesterday, a bit sorry about that. Maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah, at jobs and in real life, with you might. It could be someone that's your parent, your kid's teacher. It could be someone you bumped into at a coffee shop, or just on the way out, you say sorry about that. I was in a bad place, whatever it may be. These are all hypothetical situations, by the way.
You're causing carnage for at least.
Oddly specific examples here from me.
How many times have you been to prison, Stuart? Just out of interest.
I think we should talk about animals.
No, come on, Stuart. First of all, we know how much you care about our listeners' well-being. So come on, you're the man with the tips to help us through life's issues. give us some tips on road rage first of all. How do we avoid this?
I'll happily narrate Adam's tips. That's not a problem. So, personal strategies. Remain calm. Now, this is preacher. Remain calm. Don't engage. Avoid eye contact. All these are just rules of thumb for life. Keep a safe distance. Lock your doors. This is what the first thing I do when I get in my car before I turn the engine on is lock the door.
Hmm.
That's the first thing I do. Same as soon as I walk through my house, I lock the door as well. That's a good habit to get into. Road rage or not, just lock your door.
But what if somebody's already in your car or your house?
I mean,
And it's a bad call, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, in that situation, unlock the car and get out, I would suggest. Technology-wise, dash cams are popular, and they're quite affordable nowadays, dash cams. But if you do struggle with your anger, take myself out of this situation, then, learning how to deal with that is worth doing as well, I think.
And what could be a good way of dealing with it? It might be looking at pictures of animals, for example.
Yes, I like it. I like the segue, spelt the right way.
So our final case today, it combines two of my favourite things, not you, Stuart.
Well.
Animals and just how stupid most criminals are. And they really are. Let's not make any pretenses about it. There are some brilliant criminals at the very top of their game. But most of the criminals we deal with on our podcast and we read about in the papers are absolutely stupid. And one such person, Brian Harold. He was 19 at the time of his crimes. Him and his hapless mate, they admitted to multiple crimes at why would I laugh so much? At Carlisle Crown Court. So attempted burglary, theft from vehicles, and vehicle interference. So it's serious stuff. So in 2024, they began by stealing a nail gun, a cordless jaw, and a charger from a van parked in the area. Okay, and then it escalated. CCTV footage later captured them breaking into a parked Ford Focus. Stuart, if you're about to break into a car, Ford Focus, would that be your choice of car to break into, do you think?
No, they're not reliable, Fords.
Not reliable. No. So the security might not be reliable, so it could have been a good choice.
Possibly. I just know they break down a lot and you have to go to Ford to get them fixed and it's annoying.
Okay. All right. Have you got annoyed in a Ford garage before or not?
Yeah, it wasn't my car, so it was fine.
But they saw this Ford Focus, so they snatched a silver ring and a key ring. I mean, who the hell would steal a key ring? But then they went 3 kilometres down the road across Carlisle. They stole a decorative wooden wishing well, I didn't know that was a thing, from someone's doorstep before abandoning it on a nearby street. But the burglary attempt that eventually got Brian Harold linked to the crime, he tried to break into a house using a garden chair, failed to gain access, but his fate was sealed because he trod in some dog poo in the garden. When police later apprehended him, he was still wearing the same shoes that left the incriminating mark. It's not good, is it?
It's not.
Poor Brian.
We've all been there. We've all stood in dog dirt at some point, haven't we?
But, I think for Brian, I think he needs to reconsider his choice. I mean, sure, I'm sure you're very good on the football field, but you're not going to play centre forward, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm retired now anyway.
Well, maybe. Well, after your latest set of injuries towards the end of your career?
Yes, correct, yeah. Broken collarbone, snapped in half. Retired me at 35.
35. Not in your mid-20s, as our listener thought last week.
I know, yeah, that was so good. I've actually got a dog story, but from one of my own dogs, the pug. Bruce the pug is a little bit famous in my listeners' circles. So on Friday, before we finish, he is a greedy git, basically. He'll eat anything. He's just a constant scavenger. He will eat tissues on the floor. He will eat rubbish. He will eat anything that gets discarded. If you're chopping something and it falls on the floor, he will eat it. So my missus was preparing some fruit for my daughter's school dinner, including some grapes. Now, you either know or you don't know, but grapes are incredibly toxic to dogs. They have something in them that basically can kill dogs. And it is fat, but he's only a pug, so he's not like a Great Dane. But he ate a grape straight away. And all the advice says, contact the vets. You've got a 2-hour window. It fear mongers you into doing it. So she contacts the vet hospital, takes him, and they said, right, we need to make him sick. We're going to be here an hour. It's going to cost you £320. And the funny part was, long story short, he's fine. He threw up the grape. He came home. He had some activated charcoal in his tea. He's absolutely fine. Knowing him and his iron stomach, he probably would have been fine anyway, but he's all good. The funniest part was, because my missus not only had to pay some money for this, but she also took a day's unpaid leave for it. The funniest part was when she rang me, I'm working, and she was telling me really upset about the cost and all this stuff. And she said that she told the consultant that 320 quid, that she said that's an expensive grape, but she would have said it in a really like deadpan and angry way. And I'm on the other end of the phone just trying to hold in a laugh because I know it just wouldn't go down very well. But she was that pissed off that they actually ended up waiving the consultation fee and it only cost £160.
Only £160. Fantastic.
But when it's come down from 320,
Yeah.
it seems like a bargain, right? Oh, God, I was howling on the phone. I don't know why I found it so funny.
Come on, Stuart, give our listeners one last insight into the Blues household. So that £160, what are you going to splurge on?
Well, it wasn't my money, so I'm hoping that the missus will buy me something.
For example, anger management courses?
Yeah. Anger management courses, some petrol.
A segue?
A segue into the wrap-up here. So we are going to leave it there. If you've got any thoughts on anything we have discussed, or if there's a topic you think is worth highlighting, please reach out like the people did on Instagram. You could drop a comment on YouTube or join the Facebook group, get involved. We have polls on there quite often and Adam's dead banter. We are going to return to Paul Doyle's story in a couple of weeks briefly when he actually gets sentenced. I think it's December maybe 15th or 16th, I believe.
And he's been told to expect a significant custodial sentence.
Yeah, so we'll revisit this in a couple of weeks' time. Between now and then, make sure you subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening or watching. We have a new episode every single Wednesday, and we do provide updates as we go along. I think this is our 6th episode now. So
it feels like lots more, Stuart. Is it only 6?
It feels like, yeah, it is 6, amazingly. I've only been going a few weeks, but if you are enjoying it, we certainly are, despite what it may sound like. Please leave us a quick rating or review. It costs you nothing, and it helps new listeners find the show. Thank you, as always, for catching up with us. We'll see you next time for another True Crime Catch-Up.
Cheerio.